Which type of person are you? Are you the type of person who gets more work done and is more productive when you're always alone and have no friends? Or are you the type of person who, without friends and people to socialize with, you will just end up doing a bunch of degenerate shit because you have too much alone time? I guarantee that 99% of you watching this video are in the second group, where if you have too much alone time, you'll end up falling back into the bad habits. So you need friends. Humans are social animals, so without friends you'll probably fucking die because being alone all the time is against our natural instinct and desire to spend time with others. And also having good friends that are on self-improvements with you, like you guys go to the gym together and you push each other to train harder, all of that will help accelerate your journey and make it easier. There's a famous Harvard study that you probably heard of. It's called the Harvard Study of Adult Development, and it found that the biggest predictor for lifelong fulfillment and health is strong relationships with other humans. That's how important it is to have family and friends to spend time with. So here is my guide on how to make friends while being on self-improvement. The goal of this guide is for you to be able to create strong relationships with your closest friends in which you are all on self-improvement and you're all going to the gym and trying to make money and trying to become successful together without giving up the life-changing confidence boost that comes with being the charismatic, popular guy who everyone knows and likes. First, let me tell you my story. My process of making friends and becoming more social in college actually started before college. It started in my senior year. So one day, my friend and I were both at the mall. We weren't there to buy anything. We weren't there to window shop. We were there to overcome social fear. Basically, we were there to fuck around. So the first thing we would do would be to go into a store where the cashier didn't really look like they were busy doing anything. And I would go up to the cashier and ask them, "Excuse me, how much do you think this store costs?" And then the cashier would respond with like, I don't know, probably a lot of money. And my friend who was next to me would say, "Oh, well, can we get it for free then?" And the cashier would be like, "Okay, yeah, obviously not." And then my friend would be like, "Oh, well, what if I said I was 6'1"? And then the cashier would be like, no, it doesn't matter, obviously. And then we'd ask the cashier, "Well, does that mean height doesn't matter?" And then the cashier would say, "Yeah." And then we would celebrate because the cashier just said, "Height doesn't matter." And we would leave. Okay, I know it's stupid and degenerate, but it was funny as fuck to fuck around with these cashiers. And a lot of them were chill with it. A lot of them didn't really care. They would just laugh along with us. But, I mean, we did piss a few off. And got asked to leave. Another time, we asked a worker if we could get something from the buy one, get one free section, but just without the buy one part. So literally just get one free. And then the worker would obviously say no, right? And then my friend would pull out the bullshit like, "Oh, what if I said I was 6'1" card again?" And then the cashier would say, would laugh and then just say no. Okay, it doesn't sound that funny saying it out loud, but in the moment, it was funny. I promise. And we didn't just fuck around with employees. We fucked around with random people in the mall too. For example, my friend, he went up to two boys who were like a little bit younger than us, maybe a few years younger than us. And since it was around Valentine's Day time at that time, he asked them, "I don't have a Valentine this year. Can you help me find one?" And the boys literally took my friend around and found a group of, I think it was just two girls. The three of them went up to those two girls and asked them if any of them are single. And then one of the girls said yeah. And then they introduced my friend to her. And then we found out she was 15 and we left. So basically we were just fucking around in the mall. And as stupid as it was, it actually helped us overcome a lot of social fear, right? Because in the beginning of our fucking around, we were scared to do these things. We were like worried. We thought it would be kind of embarrassing. We thought, what if they get really mad and they kick us out? We were scared of that at first, but as we kept doing it, we got more used to it. And at some point, we could just talk to anyone so freely and just troll people so freely. So the first thing you need to do, if you learned anything from this story, in making friends and becoming more social, is pushing past your comfort zone. You need to get over your fear of talking to people and doing kind of embarrassing, funny things so that it will loosen you up and make normal socializing easier. You know how if there's a big test coming up, sometimes it's advised that you take a practice test that's harder than the actual test so that when you take the actual test, it feels easy. This is the same thing, but just with socializing. You need to put yourself into more challenging social experiences so that when you normally socialize, it feels so much easier. So in the summer before college, after I was done with all of this embarrassment therapy senior year bullshit, right? In the summer before college, it was so much easier for me to normally socialize with people, especially in the gym. Whenever I was near another guy and we would both be resting between sets, I would just strike up a conversation with him. And if you have trouble doing this, I will tell you exactly how to do it. The first line that would naturally come out of my mouth was, "How you doing, bro?" It would just be, "How you doing, bro?" It's very simple. You're in the gym, you can call everyone bro. And then we would have a small conversation about, like what muscles we're training that day, what school we go to, where we go to school, because most of the people I talked to were people around my age or maybe a little bit older because there was really no one younger than me at my gym. And then at some point in the conversation, because I was probably the smallest guy in the gym at the time, I would tell him something like, "Yeah, I'm trying to get big like you, bro." And they would say something like, "Thank you, you got this, bro." Something like that, right? And it would just be such a nice, wholesome conversation at the gym. And if the conversation went really well, I'd probably ask him for his number or something. Not because I'm gay, but because I wanted to arrange a workout with him for some other day. I did this with one of the guys that I met. Just a few days after we met, we hit legs together, and that session destroyed my fucking legs. We were both doing squats at the Smith machine because, it's Planet Fitness. There's nothing but Smith machines there. We were doing squats at the Smith machine, and my initial plan was to do 30 reps of a lighter weight. And after I got to 30 reps, my new friend told me, "Well, I think you got 10 more in you." And I was like, "Okay, you're probably right." So I just did 10 more. I continued from 30 and I got to 40. But then after that, he's like, no, I think you got 20 in you actually. And I was like, "Fuck you, bro." And I'm doing 10 more. So now I'm at 50. I'm at 50 reps now. I thought I could only do 30 at this weight, but apparently I can do 50. And after 50, he says, "No, at least get to 60, bro." And he's pushing me basically at this point. He's pushing me hard. And I'm trying to get to 60. I'm trying my best. And he's counting down like 5, 4, 4 again. 3. I'm like, "Oh my god, bro, why? Just fucking get to 0. And this motherfucker's like, 3, 2, 1. Come on. One more. Just one more. Fine. Another one more. After that, one more. And then I finally finish. He says, "Put the bar away." I got 65 reps. And at this point, my legs are on fire. But that guy was a prime hype guy. I thought I could only do 30 reps at that weight. I ended up doing 65. And that's the benefits with going with these types of people to the gym. Because you make progress so much faster. You push yourself so much more when you have these people around you who's telling you, no, you got 10 more in you. Nah, you can do one more. Come on, do one more. They will tell you that, and you will push harder than you would if you're by yourself. And you can be his hype guy too, the guy that pushes him to do more reps. So that way, both of you make insane progress in the gym together. So that's a bit of a side note. That was a bit off topic, but that was the social training I did before college. And when I got to college, I was ready to be the popular social fucking Chad type of guy because I was never that guy in high school and I wanted to be more like that in college. So the first social experience I had at college was, orientation, right? Because that's the moment I get onto campus. We have orientation. They put us in a group and we all have to go on a tour around the school. So the first people I talked to were the people in my orientation group. And I was already being incredibly social. I was talking to everyone, introducing myself to the people I haven't spoken to yet in my group, kind of the quiet ones. I even talked to them. I even talked to my tour group leader and asked her questions, mainly about what she's studying because what she was studying was exactly what I was planning on studying. So orientation was a good time for me to make some initial friends and get some practice with being social. But the real deal was the social events and parties where I made a ton of friends and became more popular. So the next piece of advice I want to give you is that when you enter a new space, perhaps a new school or a new college, there are 2 ways to find your best, closest friends. The first thing you can do is make a shit ton of friends and then narrow down to the few people who you actually benefit from spending time with. Or you can be that guy who basically avoids everyone until he finds the 3 or 4 special people in his life that he wants to spend time with. And let me tell you, the first method is so much better than the second method. And the reason is because as much as I understand the whole quality over quantity thing, the whole, I'd rather have 4 quarters than 100 pennies. I understand that. But I'd rather have a bunch of pennies first because there's an insane confidence boost that comes with being the guy who everyone knows. And don't worry, you will find your brothers, your quarters eventually. So in the first week of college, I was a fucking social animal. Let me give you some examples of what I did during these parties and social events. So one day there was a huge activity fair at the field near the dining hall, and there were tons of students playing volleyball and spike ball, and there were some students sitting on the grass and talking, and other people were just walking around. This was my chance to talk to a ton of people and make sure my name was known. Throughout my time there, I talked to about 100 students, and I was making friends left and right. I even went up to a group of 10 white girls sitting on the grass, and I sat down with them and talked to them just for a little bit. I was talking with one of the girls about how we're both, from the same state or whatever, because my college is in a different state than my home state, and we were both from that same home state. And we just talked for a little bit, and then I got up and left eventually, and I left my phone on the grass near the girls, so when I was walking back to my friends, the girls just all started yelling my name and saying I forgot my phone, and then I ran back, got my phone, and said thanks, and I left. That was my confirmation. It doesn't sound like that big of a deal, right? But that was just a confirmation that all of these girls now knew my name. My roommate and I even went and played some game called Bananagrams with 2 girls sitting on the grass. We just sat with them and started playing the game with them. It was just a really fun experience. I was so incredibly social, more social than I had ever been in my entire life. Another event was one with food trucks that was near the gym. And me and my friends went to that event, and during that event, I fist bumped 200 people. This is not a joke. I actually did that. There was a line of about 30 students for, I think it was flavored ice. And I told my friends, I bet I could just walk by that line and fist bump every student in the line. And I just told them that because I wanted them to challenge me, and they did. So I said, okay, I'm gonna go do it. And I did it. I literally went by the line and I fist bumped every single student in that line. I was literally that guy that was spreading positive energy and positive vibes everywhere. Even inside the gym, there was a group of 7 Indian girls at a round table in the gym, and I just went up to them and I said something like, oh my god, is this the Indian gang over here? Or something like that. I'm actually so retarded. I actually cringe thinking about that right now. But it was me overcoming my social fear, and it worked. I asked them what their names were, and each of them said their names around the table. And I said, I'm not going to remember all of that, but all of you can just remember my name. Boom, done. I also went to parties in the first week every single day because there were no classes yet anyway. And I talked to a bunch of guys and girls at these parties, and I made a ton of new friends. So after I had done all of these things, my popularity was at a point where I would just be walking with my friends on the sidewalk, and a bunch of times there would just be random people walking by me and saying, yo, what's up, Vicky? And I didn't even remember who they were. And all my friends would be like, how does that guy know you? Same thing in the dining hall too. There would be people who would come up to me because they recognized me, and they would literally call me by my name, and I forgot theirs. That just shows how many people I talked to. They all remembered my name, but I did not remember theirs. And I know that sounds kind of bad, but it is an insane confidence booster when someone you don't even remember calls you by your fucking name because you're just that popular. So if you've learned anything from my college socializing story, it's that before you make and spend time with the good friends who are on self-improvement and everything, you should first be that guy that talks to literally everyone. You have to be that guy that just talks to random people out of nowhere. Fist bumps random people on the street. You need to be that guy spreading positive energy everywhere you go. So much that people with social anxiety will think you're a fucking maniac. Because that is how you build your charisma, which is the vibes you give off that make people want to be friends with you. You might find it cringe to do all of this fist bumping, talking to a billion people stuff. You might be worried that other people will think you're weird for doing that, but I promise you, that is not true. Anyone who tells you that it's cringe to talk to random people throughout the day probably has no friends. Because the truth is, people appreciate when you interact with them. It's just a fact. It's been true since forever. That includes giving them a fist bump, telling them, hello, how are you doing today? All of that. They appreciate it. Even if you ask someone how they're doing and they tell you to shut the fuck up, their brain cannot help but appreciate your question a little bit. So do not be hurt by the people who step a little bit back when you try to fist bump them. Maybe they don't like touch, maybe it's just for self-protection, or maybe they don't like positive energy around them. But it's not about you. It's more their problem. But they still can't help but appreciate your effort to interact with them. Unless you slap someone's ass without their consent. Maybe that's taking the interaction a bit too far. The other thing that you should have gotten from this is that instead of being the attractee, you need to be the attractor first. Keyword first. At some point you will be the attractee. But first, you need to be an attractor. In other words, there should be more times that your charisma attracts other people than other people's charisma attracts you. In other words, your social force should be greater than everyone else's. Social force is basically the force that you give off yourself that compels other people to support you and follow you and spend time with you. Having a lot of social force is how you become a leader of people instead of one of the guys following some other guy with more social force than you. And you might be wondering, why should you become an attractor, someone with really high social force, first? First of all, most of the people around you are, as mean as it sounds, they are losers. They're not really that ambitious. They don't have any huge goals or anything. They still scroll on their phones hours a day. They still watch TV. They still play video games. And the worst part is they don't even feel bad for doing it. They think doing all of these things for hours a day is normal. You have to become their leader. And by leader, I do not mean their fucking master and they're at your feet or anything. Not like that. I mean that they should be trusting you for guidance and advice. You should be the guy that gets them onto self-improvement. And you do that by talking to everyone, talking to a bunch of people and arranging hangouts with them where you all go to the gym together and train really hard and you get them onto good habits. But why should you become that guy? As I've said before, helping others is one of the best ways to help yourself. You will find yourself so much more committed to your self-improvement when you help other people improve their lives and get them onto this stuff, because you'll feel a new sense of responsibility and accountability that you simply cannot fuck up and beat your meat all day because you are a needed guide and people are counting on you. Also, as an attractor with high social force, instead of an attractee with lower social force, along with having friends who are losers and you help them become winners, which helps you become a winner yourself, you will also find the high quality people on self-improvement. They are on your level and you really want to be friends with them, right? Because these people are your brothers. They are your quarters and they will join you on self-improvement and you guys are at the same level anyway, right? So they'll hold you accountable for the mistakes you make and they'll help you accelerate your self-improvement journey. You will not find your brothers, your quarters, by being a quiet attractee who just waits for the right time and has no social force. You just wait for the right time and you're waiting for the best people ever to come into your life. You're not gonna find your quarters that way. You're gonna find them by going out there and being an attractor and helping other people improve themselves. Because the high quality people who you want to be your brothers, they are probably also attractors too with high social force. And attractors recognize attractors. High social force recognizes high social force. And when you find these people who are also attractors on self-improvement like you guys will become extremely close and boost each other's self-improvement journeys. Kind of like a mutualistic relationship. You know the relationship between flowers and bees, where bees help the flowers with pollination in exchange for nectar. It's like that relationship where both of you benefit immensely. So now I want you to understand this, and this is probably something you've already heard before, and it's that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Therefore, you cannot be friends with all of these losers forever. Because the truth is, while being an attractor who's incredibly social and is talking to all of these people and making friends with all of these people and spending time and trying to help them improve is great and all, and you find your high quality quarters from it, once you find those high quality friends who are on your level, you don't necessarily need to do that anymore. And the reason is because most of the losers that you try to help won't care about self-improvement that much. Maybe 5% of losers that you get onto self-improvement will actually stay on it and become one of your friends, one of your quarters who are on your level. So the 95% of people aren't worth spending much time with anymore because you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and you don't want these people to bring down your average. So after you've found your brothers, your quarters who are on self-improvement with you and they're on your level, it is now your job to increase your average by becoming a little bit more of an attractee instead of an attractor. So that basically means that while your social force is still really fucking high, because you've been building it all this time through talking to so many people and getting a bunch of people onto self-improvement, probably most of them fell off, but at least you got them onto it, and you were just a social animal for so much time. Now, you don't need to increase your social force that much anymore, because now you're more careful of who you allow into your tribe. So what you need to do at this point, which is what I call becoming more of an attractee instead of an attractor, is making friends with people who are ahead of you on self-improvement. You need to make friends with people who are better than you and more disciplined than you, and they're physically bigger than you and they have more muscle than you. So that way you can bring up your average. Because since you've gathered so much social force, you've made so much social progress, and you've created a tribe with your brothers who are on your level, and you guys are all striving to improve together, that will make people who are ahead of you on self-improvement more likely to want to help you guys improve because they see your potential. If you did none of the previous steps and you just jumped to trying to make friends with super high quality people, with fucking giga chads, then they probably wouldn't take you that seriously, right? Because you'd have super low social force. But since you did all of this, socializing and helping others with self-improvement, which helped build your social force, your eligibility to be friends with these high-level people, now they can see that you've made incredible progress and they want to help you now. You are the attractee, and that guy that is better than you is the attractor. That doesn't mean you're a submissive little bitch now. It just means you're learning from him, which is extremely important if you want to increase your average. Don't get me wrong, you should never leave your quarters, your brothers who are on self-improvement at the same level as you. You should never leave them for these higher quality people. What I'm saying is that you should invite these higher quality men into your tribe so that they can help all of you progress faster together. I know that the tribe talk sounds a little bit cringe, but it is how the highest quality male friendships are, right? Think about back in the day when men used to have tribes and they used to hunt together and eat together and celebrate together, and they helped each other get stronger, and the newer members of the tribe would learn how to do certain things from the older members of the tribe, right? That is one of the strongest relationships men can form. Remember the goal of this guide. It is for you to form a tribe-like relationship with your closest friends, your closest allies who are on self-improvement with you, and you're all striving to become successful, while also being able to experience the amazing confidence boost you get from being a charismatic, popular guy. This process that I just described is exactly how you achieve that. You start with overcoming social fear through challenges and, kind of like embarrassment therapy. And then you start talking to everyone and socializing with everyone. You become an attractor and leader of lower level people, and you get them onto self-improvement and help them improve. And then through that, you find your brothers, your quarters who are on your level and on self-improvement with you. You form a tribe with them, and then you become an attractee and learn from the higher level people. That is how you make friends while improving your life. And remember, this process will take time. It may even take a few years. Even I'm still in the process of finding my tribe. But as long as you trust the process and you keep working hard and you stay focused on your self-improvements all throughout, you will find your people. This video won't change your life. You will.